Hello guys, it's Natalie. I'm gonna do my short presentation on me interviewing and analyzing a third grade text and teacher. Let's go ahead and get started. So just a short table of contents. The first half is going to be on the testimony of the content teacher that I got to interview, her experience with ELLs, the support that she gives to her ELLs, and then a little bit more information about the structure of her classroom and how just other things that she keeps in mind. And then the second half is going to be on the analysis of the text that she gave me. So just a little overview of that, some of its key features, a deeper look into the lexical density and organization of the text, and then how to break it down for ELLs. Okay, so getting started, this is the teacher that I got to interview. Her name is Adriana. She is a mother of two, and she's been teaching third grade for 2 years now, soon to be 3 after the summer. And then she has also taught second grade and kindergarten. I was able to get in contact with her through my tutoring job. I actually tutor for one of her children, Andre's, and, I just heard it in passing that she's a third grade teacher, so I was like, oh, perfect. A little overview of her experience with ELLs. Last year she had 6 ELL students, and this year she has 10. Most of them are Spanish speakers, but there have been other L1s present with these students, like Mandarin, Pashto, and Portuguese. She also told me that the area that where she teaches, which is Fremont in Northern California, it is normally an area that doesn't have a lot of L1 speakers, immigrant speakers, but because of the area that she works in, there is more because it's in a lower socioeconomic area. She told me there's lots of apartment complexes and things like that. So there's more ELLs in this school rather than other schools in the area. She also mentioned that she is a Spanish speaker, so she feels like she can help out a lot more with those ELLs where their L1 is Spanish. And she also told me that this year her biggest struggle was with her Mandarin speaking student, just because that L1 is very different, different writing style to English. While this student seems really smart and gifted, learns really quickly, it's just hard getting her to learn the specific material for her to pass that third grade class. But then we talked about the support that she gives to her ELLs. So first is this device called Pocket Talk, and it's actually the translation device in the corner that is provided by the school for each ELL. It allows for text and speech to be translated, so very useful for them. The next one is supplemental sources that are provided by the textbook. It is an online resource that the students access through their tablets. In the teacher book, it gives lots of options on how to transform a lesson to be ELL friendly. So there was different sections. She sent me a little screenshot of it, and there was different sections for light, moderate, and substantial support. So different examples of activities that you can do with the textbook, depending on how much scaffolding you want to give to those students. And then it also gives opportunities to provide more visuals to the students. And that's when we kind of got on a tangent talking about how visuals are really important and helpful for any student, especially ELLs. So we talked about how, they can really give background and important information that can really help ELLs understand what they are reading. And then it can also help them connect ideas and what they already know. So one of the examples that she gave of how she uses visuals is after reading a story. Normally she will ask students to fill out a timeline on the whiteboard. So, even though it's not in picture format, still a diagram like this is really helpful for students, breaking it down and picturing what each section of the story is about. Now going back to the other support options that she gives to her ELLs, the next one is translated resources. A lot of them are provided by the school, especially for state testing and things like that. But she did mention that unfortunately they're really only given in languages popular in the area, so aka Spanish, and other resources for other languages like Mandarin or Pashto are not present, and she really wishes there was more of that. And she also said that she will give resources to ELLs where they aren't even literate in their L1, just so it can help in any way possible, because there are other students who are literate in the L1 that the student needs help with, and they're able to explain and help with a little bit of that, or maybe their parents can help them with the translated resources. And then the fourth support is the other people in the classroom. So her classroom is special education and mainstream students, like a hybrid class. So there is an assistant that helps with any of the students who need more help. And also, thanks to, the environment that she facilitates and maintains, the other students are very eager to help. So they'll often translate things or explain aspects to these ELLs. And the ELLs are also, very willing to ask questions and request help from anyone. But yeah, just a little overview. She, as a student or a teacher, being one person having to teach, I think she said there was 25 to 30 students in her class. It's hard to explain each and every part of something or trying to tailor to every student. So all of these support options really do help. And then a little structure of the classroom. She does prefer to teach ELLs and the rest of her class through examples. So the teacher will do it, then the group will do what the teacher did, then they'll do it in pairs, and then individually. So, as time goes on, there is less scaffolding. She says her favorite part is working in groups, just because it's more intimate and, less nerve-wracking for those ELLs. And then she also talked about how she differentiates instruction, how she prefers hands-on activities and normally practices TPR and things like that. She told me that every other Friday they have a physical education segment, and normally they warm up with a game of Simon Says. So yeah. And then lastly, we just talked about some other stuff as we got off topic, but things that she loves to keep in mind is making sure that there's healthy motivation and attitude in her classroom. She really said that these are the most important things to her, and how helpful and good motivation can really help students be less afraid, break out of that L1 bubble and get them to be motivated to be in uncomfortable situations so they can learn how to speak English. And then she also said that, when students have a good attitude, they'll want to come to class, they'll want to have a good time and learn. And then the last thing that we talked about was promoting multiculturalism. So every day the students, state the calendar date, and they're allowed to do it in their L1. And there are even other activities where students can also speak in their L1, like show and tell. She told me about this one time that Mandarin student, it was very clear that she felt proud that she could excel in something that, excel more in something than the other students. So yeah. But now, moving on to the overview of the analysis of the text that she gave me. Pretty much it was a very short story talking about the very famous Greek myth about King Midas and how he wishes that everything he touches turns into gold. And that he, later regrets this because his daughter turns into gold, and the Greek god Dionysus is very forgiving and lets him learn from his mistakes. But, the main reason why they were reading this was to help students practice reading fiction and certain aspects of fiction writing. So the key features kind of go into that. So it contained lots of similes and metaphors. So here's an example. Midas's happiness disappeared like smoke up a chimney. It also had famous sayings. So like, for all that glitters is not always golden. A lot to unpack in that small sentence. It also contained some cultural aspects that I noticed while analyzing it. So you had to know certain Greek myth and cultural aspects like satires and Dionysus and things like that. And then also just assumptions that, I think students would expect when reading it, like, kings are greedy and they want gold, and gods are powerful and magical and able to grant wishes. And then a little more information about the features. The lexical density was actually fairly simple. I think since it was about a subject not normally covered, about Greek myths, they kept it pretty simple, and most third graders would be able to follow along. There were some tougher words, though, like melodious. And then the organization was also somewhat easy to follow once you understand it. So chronological order, and there was a clear theme reading progression. So this is literally just the first few sentences of the story. It says there's a king named Midas. Midas loves two things. Midas loves his daughter. Midas loves gold. So very clear organization. And then lastly, how some ideas of how I thought to break down the text would be helpful for ELLs. So I thought that graphic organizers would make the most sense, especially for her class and how she likes to use visuals and things like that. So I was thinking that you could make a certain page dedicated to the different characters, or describe the order of events. So maybe they are learning about, sequencing. So you could do beginning, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Or we could do about what we talked about with history texts and describe the 4 verb types. So look for doing verbs, sensing verbs, saying verbs, and being verbs, to really break down what is all being said. And I thought a great way to do this, especially how she likes doing group activities, is each item in whatever subject she picks can be dedicated to a certain group of students. The students work on that topic, and then they share the topic with the class, so everyone gets to learn each topic of the subject. And this is just like a quick example of a worksheet that I found that I thought was great. Breaks down the characters, breaks down the main topic, then the sequencing of the events, and then at the end you get to overall explain and summarize what you wrote on your paper. But yeah, I think the way of doing this, graphic organizers would really help ELLs simplify, this large group of text and make clear distinctions, and, not only help ELLs, but also help every student. But yeah, that was a somewhat long, explanation of what my paper will be about, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye-bye.